Hi, this is April with Princess Soaps and Gifts, and today we're going to make Moana Soap. I'm so excited about this because Moana is seriously one of my favorite Disney movies, and I've been watching it constantly, so I'm really excited to do this soap. One of the reasons why it's taken me so long is because I didn't know what I was going to do as an embed. And last week I got a special request and I went looking again, and on eBay I found these Heart of Tahiti molds. And I was like, yay, finally! So I bought 5 of them. I'm going to need 10, so I'm just going to do them twice. So I've got those, got them on eBay. I'll put a link down below. For my fragrance, I'm going to use exotic coconut fragrance oil from Crafter's Choice. For the colors, I'm going to use Aqua Pearl Mica, Tropical Sea Green Mica Powder, and this is Shamrock Green Mica. These two are from Brambleberry and this is from Crafter's Choice. If you don't want to go and buy a whole big container, you can buy these sample packets, and they come with usually lots of different colors in the sample, and you can kind of look and see what you like. So that's what these are right here. And of course we've got our rubbing alcohol as well. So the first thing we're going to do is cut up our soap. So we're going to go ahead and get that done. I'm going to use this Crafter's Choice detergent-free clear soap base. What I want to do is try to do a nice water gradient, but all in the greens. So we're going to try. I haven't made this before, kind of see what happens. I'll set my ingredients aside here so that I can get cutting. The first thing I'm going to do is the embeds and get those started. Make sure you cut your soap up into pretty even amounts so that it melts evenly at the same pace. For the embeds, I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to throw some in to this Pyrex. I'm not going to need a lot, so I'm not going to cut up a lot. That is probably going to be plenty. So I'm going to pop this in the microwave for about 30 seconds. And that should pretty much melt it down. Alright, here's our soap. 30 seconds was a little too long. I ended up doing it for about 23 seconds. It's melted down pretty nice. And just kind of, if there's any chunks in there, just kind of stir it and they will go away. The first thing I'm going to add is my exotic coconut fragrance oil. Dropper in there. Probably could have done about half a dropper, but that's fine. Stir that up in there real good. Now for the heart, I'm going to use this Brambleberry Shamrock Green Mica because I want to try to get that nice rich green. So the way I melt down this mica, or dissolve down the mica, so I'm going to put a little bit of rubbing alcohol into a shot glass here. It's just plain rubbing alcohol. I'm going to take my little bag. Spoon here. Put Put some on the spoon. Drop it on in there. My little bamboo skewer here. Mix that up. It's a really, really pretty deep green. Now I'm going to pour this into my melted soap base. Use a little rubbing alcohol in here just to kind of get the last of the mica out. Waste not, want not, and all that. And just mix that up. Now what I'm also going to add that I forgot to mention to begin with is this Crafter's Choice Iridescent Super Sparkle Glitter. I put this in everything because I love everything to be glittery and sparkly. Mix that up. And it adds, I don't know if you can tell, but it adds so much shimmer and sparkle to that green. All right, now we're going to take our molds. And we're going to carefully pour in the soap. Molds are not quite flat on the bottom, but that one's kind of making out a little bit, but it's okay. We'll just cut off the excess with a knife. Oops, I spilled that all over the counter. Well, spritz the top of there. Looks like I had one that was flat on the bottom, and the rest are kind of maybe two. Pop all the bubbles, and we're just going to let those sit for a little bit and harden up. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes or so, and they look like they've hardened up pretty nicely. So I'm going to pull them out. Any of these little extra bits, I'm just going to drop into the soap that I had. They're not super hard, but they'll continue to get hard. I'm just going to set them aside. See, those are really pretty. Really like how those turned out. That my molds aren't flat on the bottom, what I'm going to do for the rest of them is I've got these cute Mickey molds, and I'm just going to kind of set them right inside there that they'll be flat. pour the rest of this soap in here. Hopefully I have enough. I think I will. Be just about perfect. Perfect. So for the rest of this, I'm just going to pour in here, and that can just be a little bar soap for my kids because they like to use my soap too. And they're kind of weird, they don't want to share soap, so if I give them a whole bar, sometimes go to waste, so that'll be good for them for a few showers. Alright, so I'm going to let that sit for a little bit, let that get hard, and then I will start on the rest of the soap base. Hi there, I'm back. So what I've done here is I have cut up 55 ounces of clear soap base, and what I'm going to do is I want to do 5 layers in graduating colors. So I'm going to start by tearing off this Pyrex, and I know I can get about 10 ounces in here. So I'm just going to fill her up. Close enough. 10.9.
Pico meters. How big do you think pico meters are?
Okay. 10.9 ounces. So I'm going to go ahead and melt that down, and I'm going to do it in 30-second intervals in the microwave. Okay, this was in there for 67 seconds at 30-second intervals. I'm going to mix it up real good so that all the pieces are melted. Like one little chunk in there. That's okay. The first thing I'm going to add is my fragrance. Put a dropper and a half in there. Mix that up. Now for this first layer, I want it to be a really dark aqua. As you can see, I didn't rinse it out from when I did the hearts, but that's okay because we're going to add some more green. So I've got this aqua pearl mica. I'm going to take my shot glass here. Add my rubbing alcohol. And since I want this to be the darkest layer, I'm going to go ahead and add a good bit of mica to that. Mix that up. Pour that into my soap base. It's a really pretty aqua dark aqua color. I'm gonna add some sparkles in there, iridescent glitter, because I love glitter so much. Stir that up really well. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and pour this into my loaf mold. Give it a spritz. The rubbing alcohol. And I'm gonna let that sit. I don't need it to harden 100% because, like I said, I want to try to get a gradient of colors, but I am gonna let it get, pretty solid before I do the next layer. So I've let this sit for a few minutes, and if I touch it, there is a thin layer of hardened soap on the top. So I think this is going to be okay. I'm all right if it kind of bleeds through a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead. I've measured out another 11 ounces of soap, and I'm going to go ahead and melt this down at 30-second intervals. I've got this melted down. We're going to add about a dropper and a half the coconut scent. Mix that up. Alright, so I'll mix up my color. I'll put my rubbing alcohol in there. And now I'm going to try to use less than half what I did last time. I'm just going to put a little tiny bit on there. So I don't want it to be as dark. Let's see what happens. Really light. I think I'm going to add just a tiny bit more just to make it a little bit darker. I mean, I'm talking a teeny tiny bit. Glitter it up. Okay, so I'm going to spray the top of this with rubbing alcohol. Go ahead and pour it in there. I'm okay if it kind of seeps through the layer a little bit, because after all, this is water. But I'm going to pour it really slow and not just dump it. Bubbles. that sit. So I've melted down another 11 ounces of soap. Add my coconut scent. Again, about a dropper and a half. Mix that in. Now for this layer, I'm going to use the teeniest bit of the aqua pearl. Just a little tiny bit. And then I'm going to add the tropical sea green. So I can start doing that transition.
There was a spaghetti monster! About 500 volts.
And I'm going to do a good amount of that. So we have a much lighter a little bit more. Of the aqua pearl, as well as tropical green. I want it to be pretty dark, but still lighter than the previous shade. Spray this bottom layer. You see it's still a little wobbly, but it's got a skin on it. So I'm going to go ahead and start pouring it in. And again, I don't really care if it breaks that skin and melts down a little bit, because it is water. Spritz it with the alcohol to get out the bubbles. We're going to let that sit. Okay, we've got our next layer ready to go. Mixing it out. There's one little solid piece in here. Up so it'll melt. Got it? We're we've been doing before. Gonna add our scent. About a dropper and a half. And this time we are just going to use the tropical sea green mica. I'm going to use a little bit of it because I think it's pretty. I like the color. It's very Moana-y, in my opinion. That is really pretty. Add in my glitter. Moana was not a glitter princess. I look at it like the glitter is the light hitting the ocean water, refracting that light. So I've got a thin skin on here again. Squirt it. Layer, I'm going to let it get really good and hard because the next layer I'm going to put in the embeds and I don't want them to sink down, so I'm going to, instead of just letting a thin skin come over it, I'm going to let it get really nice and hard. So we're going to let this sit probably for about an hour or so, maybe a little bit more. Just going to kind of come back and see what we get after a little bit. The last few times I've only been giving it, I don't know, about 20-30 minutes in between, but this time we're gonna let it sit for a lot longer. Okay, we are back and it's actually been about 2.5 hours and it is pretty firm. It's still a little soft. If you press on it, you get a little bit of give, but that's going to be okay for this next step. I've already melted down my last 11 ounces of soap. I'm going to go ahead and scent it. Stir that in. For the color, I want this to be fairly translucent and of course lighter than the last layer. So I'm really only just going to use a small amount. Of the tropical sea green mica in there this time. top with the rubbing alcohol. Then I'm going to pour in this layer almost up to the top. Now I'm going to let this sit until it gets pretty firm, but where I can still stick something into it. I'm going to go ahead and unmold my beautiful hearts of Tafiti here. And I'm thinking, you know, maybe about 20-30 minutes. And because the way I'm going to put these in is kind of like this, and I don't want them to fall over. So it needs to be a little firm in there so that they will stick in there and not tip over. This turned out so pretty. So we're going to give that, like I said, about 20-30 minutes, and I'll be back to do the final step. Hi there, we are back and we are ready for our final step. We actually may be a little bit too ready, but hopefully it'll all turn out okay. So what I do is I have an extra mold, and I set that right here, and I use a measuring thing that I got from Joann's, because I want to make sure when I put in the embeds they are pretty evenly spaced. So I'm going to take a stick and I'm going to kind of insert a slit in the top here. I'm going to spray this with rubbing alcohol, and then I'm going to stick my heart of Tafiti right on in there. And I'm going to do that. All the way down. Spray it with the rubbing alcohol and stick it right on in there. There's a little bit of overlap there. I'm just going to kind of fold that down. And I'm going to stick this one in the opposite way as the other so that the heart faces towards the inside the bar when I cut it. Now, since I didn't quite fill it all the way to the top, I am going to melt down just a teeny tiny bit of clear and pour it on there just to secure it. Okay, so I've melted down just the smallest amount here of soap. I'm going to use just a little bit of this color I had left in this shot glass. Just gonna pour it in there. Give it just the faintest hint. Add some more sparkles because I can't help myself. This is too hot, but I am going to check my temperature. No, it's not too hot. I'm going to spray the whole top of this. And then what this is going to do is just make sure that these embeds are stuck in really good. It'll fill out any crevices. And make sure they don't go anywhere. All right, I think that looks beautiful. And we're going to give it a few hours to set, and then we will be back to cut it open and see what we have. I'm excited. We are back, and this is my favorite time. This is the time where we're gonna cut open this soap. Now I have to tell you, I've been wanting to make a Moana soap for over a year. Moana is seriously our go-to movie in between my husband and I. I mean, he is a long-haired rock and roller, and when we don't know what to watch at night, he says, "You want to watch Moana?" And I'm like, "Yes, let's watch Moana." So I've been so excited to cut open this soap and see what we got. First thing we're gonna do is take it out of the mold. I can already see we do have a pretty gradient going on there. Go from the dark to the light. I wish there was a little bit more gradient going on, but I can work on that for the next ones. But I think it looks really pretty so far. I'm gonna set it right here. Now, I use a wire cutter for my soaps because I am terrible with a knife. And what I like about this one is I can change the widths. So the last soap I cut was a little bit wider because of the embed. So I'm going to change this to 1 inch. And I use my little ruler. Since I do use a wire cutter, I don't let my soap sit as long before I cut it as I would if I used a knife. The reason being is these really aren't made for melt and pour soaps. They're made mostly for cold process soaps, which are not quite as hard. So if you are cutting with, or if you're using a knife, I would let this soap sit at least overnight before you cut it and get nice and hard. But since I am using the wire cutter, I am going to go ahead and do it now before it gets super hard. So let's see what we get, y'all. I'm so excited. I hope it looks pretty inside. I love it. Inside we have that beautiful ocean type of gradient that I was looking for, from dark to light, and it's shimmery. And you can see the heart of Tahiti in there, and I am thrilled. I am thrilled. I love it. Let's see what the rest of them look like. So I always cut the end off here, and it gives me, this will be the one I give my son. It gives me a little extra little sample piece, or personal piece is what it ends up being. So yeah, those, they look beautiful. I am so happy with how these turned out. I could not be more thrilled. So now I'm going to allow them to harden up, because they're kind of soft right now. I can squeeze them and get a little bit of give. So I'm going to allow them to harden up, and then I'll package them. I've already got an order in from Moana. This was a special request, which I'm really glad I got, because like I said, I've been wanting to make one for a while, and when I found these Heart of Tahiti molds, it was like, it had to happen. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. So I want to apologize. I realized my video was turned around the wrong way. So I want to show you these with it turned around the correct way.